Last time we covered Mega Man 2, which seems to be the consensus fan favorite in the classic series. Now we have the less popular but still widely liked Mega Man 3. Beginning development over a year after the release of Mega Man 2, Mega Man 3 was released for the NES on September 28, 1990 in Japan, with North American and European releases for the NES coming November 1990 and June 23rd, 1992, respectively. As well, on September 14th, 1999 in Japan, it was released for the PlayStation. And a mobile phone release came in Japan on April 1st, 2005, and in North America on August 19th, 2008. Mega Man 3 introduced many new things to the series, including Mega Man's slide maneuver, his robot companion Rush, and Proto Man, his brother. In Mega Man 3, Dr. Light is working with Dr. Wily, who is totally a changed man and not evil anymore. And I am totally not lying through my teeth. And together they are working on developing a giant peacekeeping robot named Gamma. Their work almost complete, all that remained was to combine 8 energy elements scattered about uncharted planets and give them to Gamma. However, for some reason that totally isn't Dr. Wily. The 8 robot masters sent to mine the energy elements have suddenly gone crazy. With Dr. Light needing the energy elements to create Gamma, Mega Man sets out to the uncharted planets to stop the robots and retrieve the energy elements. Just like the other Mega Man boss rankings on my channel, all robot masters are fought with the Mega Buster. Otherwise, if I used their weakness weapon, they'd be a complete joke to beat. And not a funny joke that makes you go ha ha ha. A joke that makes you stand there in awkward silence just thinking, really, Grandma? As well, since I didn't use any E-Tanks in the Mega Man 2 boss ranking, I won't be using any here, or in any of the future Mega Man boss rankings that I do. I'm gonna regret not allowing myself to use E-Tanks in these boss rankings, aren't I? And anyway, if you have to leave a comment telling me why I'm wrong, can you please make sure I can actually read it and not just take a shit on your keyboard? But without further ado, let's begin with the easiest boss in Mega Man 3. Number 22, Holograph Mega Man. Any questions? Number 21, Breakman / Proto Man. You fight Proto Man many times throughout Mega Man 3, specifically in Magnet Man, Shadow Man, and Hard Man stage, with the last one having a different arena layout to make it more difficult. As well, you fight him one last time when he's under the alias Breakman in his own stage after defeating all of the other robot masters. Proto Man attacks by moving across the room while jumping and shooting bullets. The thing is, if you're on equal level with Proto Man, the bullets won't hit you. This is because Proto Man shoots the bullets while he jumps, so they go over your head. As well, when he gets close to you, you can just slide under him when he jumps to avoid him safely. So in the fights in Shadow Man and Magnet Man stage, where the ground is completely flat, you can just stay to the ground, fire at him, and slide under him when he gets close, and you win, easy as pie. The fight in Hard Man stage and the fight where he's under the alias Breakman aren't so simple. That's because in those fights, the arena has a different layout, which makes it not completely flat, which makes dodging Proto Man's bullets a bit harder. However, the bullets only deal a pathetic 2 damage if you get hit by them, so it's not that bad. Touching Proto Man, meanwhile, will have you take 4 damage, which still isn't a lot. Proto Man doesn't take any extra damage from special weapons, and Breakman is completely immune to them, only taking damage from the Buster. As well, Breakman's bullets are bigger than Proto Man's, but the damage is the same. As well, both Proto Man and Breakman don't have invincibility frames after being hit, which means they can be down very quickly. In conclusion, Proto Man is a very easy boss, and the only reason he's not at the bottom of the list is because Holograph Mega Man exists. Number 20, Top Man. A robot based on a spinning top. Was Wily high when he made this one? I'm not so sure about Dr. Wily, but considering what Top Man's stage looks like, yeah, he is definitely very stoned. I mean, he has to be if he thinks his strategy is effective. Top Man attacks by first throwing out 3 spinning tops that hover in the air and then shoot to your location. And then Top Man takes a page out of the My Friend Pedro handbook and starts spinning to deflect your shot. He will then spin to the other side of the room and repeat his strategy ad nauseum. To avoid the spinning tops he throws out, I recommend using the slide. And to avoid Top Man spinning, you have to jump over him. The timing for jumping over him can be a little tough at first, but you'll get the hang of it. If you get hit by his spinning top attack, you'll take 4 damage, but if you get hit by him spinning, you'll take 6 damage. So overall, his attacks don't deal too much damage and are easy to dodge anyway, so Top Man is a very easy boss. Considering the performance he put up in his boss fight, I think Top Man is actually a bottom. Number 19, Magnet Man. Magnet Man's stage theme is the best in the game. You can't change my mind. Anyway, Magnet Man is the robot master I, and many others, would recommend going after first. The stage is very easy to get through with just rushing the Buster. The Magnet Missile is a very good weapon, and the Magnet Man fight is very easy. Magnet Man moves around the arena by jumping twice, and then will either jump up a 3rd time and shoot 3 Magnet Missiles that, when above you, will shoot downward. Or he will not jump again and instead look like he's either going Super Saiyan or taking a massive shit. In reality, what he's actually doing is trying to suck you in with his magnet power to deal contact damage. When doing this attack, bullets will reflect off of him, so the only thing you can do is run in the opposite direction. You will take 6 damage if you touch Magnet Man, and the Magnet Missiles will deal 3 damage if you get hit by them. The way I dodge Magnet Man's missiles is to stay relatively close to him, and then when he fires the first 2, I run under him, which causes the last one to go in the opposite direction and not shoot downward. Sliding is also a good choice to avoid them. Anyway, Magnet Man is an easy boss because his attacks don't do a lot of damage and they're easy to avoid. But before we move on, am I the only one who finds Magnet Man to be attractive? Number 18, Kamegoro Maker. If only there was a plastic weapon in this game, Kamegoro Maker would be easier than Holograph Megaman. Anyway, this fight is kind of similar to Pico Pico Kun from the last game. As in, every time you kill one of the enemies that spawns, the boss health bar gets depleted and another faster one is released. However, Kamegoro Maker will only release 5 enemies, these turtles called Kamegoros. They move diagonally throughout the room and will change direction when hitting a wall. They can also release their shells, which will float into water until eventually exploding. They don't seem to get any faster after taking off their shells though. As well, as I said, they get faster with each one you kill, so while the first one is as slow as molasses, the last one is, well... yeah. Anyway, sometimes an air current will come out of the pipes that doesn't hurt you, but will push you, which could end up with you getting hit by one of the turtles. You only take 4 damage if you get hit by them though, so it's not that bad. The Kamegoro Maker doesn't have any attacks other than releasing the turtles, and once you kill all 5 of them, it explodes. The only reason Top Man and Magnet Man are lower than Kamegoro Maker on this list is because of the 5th Kamegoro Maker turtle, which is really hard to hit because of how fast it is. Other than that, Kamegoro Maker is really easy. So, anyone in the mood for turtle soup? Number 17, Gamma. After defeating all the Robot Masters, all the Doc Robots, and Breakman, you come back to Dr. Light's lab to figure out that Plot twist! Dr. Wily was evil the whole time. Who could have known? But yeah, Dr. Wily stole Gamma, and now you have to pursue him to his fortress. And at the end of the Wily Fortress, you find the final boss of Mega Man 3, Gamma. Although Gamma has 2 phases, it only has 1 health bar. In the first phase, your target is a small head on top of Gamma's big head, and it sort of acts like the new Shotman enemy. When you're below it, it'll shoot down bullets at you, and when you're on a similar elevation to it, it will shoot out bullets from both sides that go in a straight line. The bullets he shoots down do 2 damage, while the bullets that go in a straight line do 4. Anyway, after knocking Gamma's block off by reaching half health, Wily completes the robot and controls it now. And in the second phase, you have an entirely different set of attacks to deal with. In the second phase, Gamma will shoot bullets out of his mouth aimed at you that do 4 damage. They're not that hard to dodge, but I did find myself getting hit by them a bit. Gamma's other attack in this phase is punching you, which if it hits you, will kill you instantly. I could imagine this attack being an absolute bitch to avoid if it wasn't completely broken. You see, if you're standing still, it'll kill you instantly, but if you're moving and it hits you, well, it'll just put you on his hand. And that's good because the way you're supposed to reach his weak point is by jumping on his hand and then jumping up to this steel bit near the top of the arena. Though I usually decide to just use Rush to get up there because it's a lot easier. As well, I should mention that Gamma is immune to basically every weapon, with his first phase only being weak to Hard Knuckle and Shadow Blade, and his second phase only being weak to Top Spin and Search Snake. There are a few strategies for beating Gamma. The first one is to use Rush to get up to this steel platform near the top of the arena, and then aim up with the Hard Knuckle to deal damage to it and take it out. As well, from ground level, you can use the Shadow Blade, and staying under the steel platform will mean the falling bullets won't be able to hit you. If you do the Hard Knuckle strategy, you'll already be on the steel platform in the second phase, but if you use the Shadow Blade here, then you'll have to get up there. And in the second phase, you can just use the Top Spin to kill him instantly. You can also use Search Snake in this phase, but it doesn't kill him in one hit, and it's got pretty bad range when just shooting it. So it's a bit tricky to hit him with the Search Snake while not falling off the platform at the same time, though it is still possible. But in conclusion, despite being the final boss of Mega Man 3 and an epic giant robot, Gamma is still a very easy boss. Number 16, Doc Robot Crash. So here's the deal with Doc Robot. After defeating the 8 Robot Masters, you'll have to revisit Needle Man, Gemini Man, Spark Man, and Shadow Man stage. Each stage much harder than when you previously visited them. And in each of these new harder stages, you'll find 2 of the Doc Robots, all of which are more difficult versions of the Robot Master fights from Mega Man 2. Hooray for reused boss battles. What fucking fun. Anyway, the easiest out of these rematches is Doc Robot Crash, who is based off of Crash Man. Crash Man works similarly to how he did in Mega Man 2, as in he walks around a room, and when you shoot him, he jumps up and shoots out a Crash Bomb. However, in this fight, he will sometimes jump up and shoot a Crash Bomb without you having to fire at him. This adds a bit of randomness to the fight, but the strategy to beat him is basically the same as in Mega Man 2, which is to jump and shoot so he jumps into the shot and then try to avoid the Crash Bomb. As well, just like in Mega Man 2, both touching him and the bomb will have you take 4 damage. I'd say there's actually a case for the Mega Man 2 fight against Crash Man being harder than this one, because in this one you have access to both his weakness weapon, the Hard Knuckle, and the Slide Maneuver. The Slide Maneuver helps with avoiding the Crash Bombs when he shoots them, and if you hit him with the Hard Knuckle, he takes 7 damage from it, which is a lot. But anyway, the Doc Robot version of Crash Man is yet another easy boss worthy of being near the bottom of the list. Number 15, Doc Robot Bubble. Fun fact, Doc Robot's Japanese name is Dokuru Bato, a combination of 2 words, Dokuru, which means skull, and Roboto, which means robot. The name translates to Skull Robot, which is, you know, Dr. Wily's whole motif. However, this was lost in translation and his name became Doc Robot. Pretty interesting, right? Unlike Doc Robot himself, which is just a lazy copy of previous bosses. Anyway, this version of the Doc Robot is a rematch against Bubble Man. When Doc Robot attacks, he will shoot from 1 to 3 bubbles that will bounce across the floor until they hit the wall. And then he'll pull a gamer and rise up. And when you're on the same elevation as him as he does this, or when he's going down, he will start shooting at you. Hitting the bubble will have you take 4 damage, and hitting the bullets will have you take a measly 2 damage. Who would have thought that bouncing bubbles would do more damage than energy bullets? I guess that's just video game logic. This fight's easy enough with the Buster, but if you use one of his weakness weapons, the Spark Shocker Shadow Blade, he goes down really quickly. Your jump height is increased in this fight since you're underwater, but that means you have to worry about the ceiling, which is covered in spikes, which will kill you instantly if you touch them. But anyway, Bubble Man is yet another easy boss. Number 14, Doc Robot Heat. Well, I guess I can't make a joke on how he looks like a washing machine anymore, because now he's just a skull robot. So Doc Robot isn't just a lazy copy of previous bosses, he also gives me less material to work with to make the funny. But anyway, on to the fight itself. The Doc Robot version of Heat Man fights the same way he did in Mega Man 2, just like all the other Doc Robot bosses. His attacks include Fire Blast that turn into flame pillars when they hit the ground, and charging at you, both of which will deal 4 damage if you get hit by them. Also, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he might shoot the fire pillars a bit faster than he did in Mega Man 2, but that could just be me. Anyway, just like in Mega Man 2, when you hit him, he turns invincible for a random amount of time and then charges at you. But instead of hitting him right after he finishes his charge like my strategy was in Mega Man 2, I found that I preferred going to the opposite side of the arena, then shooting at him for my strategy for this fight. Not sure why I prefer this strategy compared to the one I used in Mega Man 2, but I do. Anyway, about his weakness weapons, I actually forgot to use them when fighting him and didn't get any footage of them for this. Good thing the password system exists and I can just go to the Doc Robot stages immediately. Though I found that using the weakness weapons didn't make this fight any easier than it would be with the Mega Buster, at least when using Shadow Blade. Top Spin does deal a lot of damage to him, but to hit him with it, you have to get so close that you're going to get hit yourself. Though if you end up trading blows, you will be able to outdamage him and kill him first. Meanwhile, I found that the Shadow Blade just didn't have enough range to work with my strategy, so I just prefer to stick with the Buster for this fight. Still though, I find this rematch against Heat Man to be easy. Number 13, Doc Robot Metal. How anyone at Capcom thought that Doc Robot was a good idea is a mystery to me. It's padding for a game that was already long enough as it needed to be. If Doc Robot was completely removed from Mega Man 3, then the game would be better for it. And if the experience of your game can be made better with the removal of a boss, then you know you're doing something wrong. But anyway, this Doc Robot fight is a rematch against Metal Man. Though there is one big difference between this fight and the one in Mega Man 2. Unlike the fight in Mega Man 2, you're just on normal ground rather than a conveyor belt. Metal Man will attack by jumping up and, depending on how high you jump, throw 1 to 3 metal blades at you. You'll take 3 damage if you get hit by them, even though realistically, a giant metal saw blade that's almost the same size as you hitting you straight in the face would probably do a lot more. If you get too close to Metal Man, he'll jump to the other side of the arena while throwing metal blades at you. So the better strategy is to just stay in your corner of the arena. Overall, Metal Man's attacks are pretty easy to avoid, but when he shoots 3 blades, that can be a bit troublesome. Metal Man either attacks on his own or when you shoot at him, and if he attacks when you shoot at him, that could lead you to missing your shot. This, however, won't matter if you're using the magnet missile, which is one of his weakness weapons. His other weakness weapon is the hard knuckle, though from my experience it isn't as effective as the magnet missile, even though they both do the same damage to him, which is 4. But in conclusion, Doc Robot Metal Man is an easy boss. Number 12, Doc Robot Wood. I'm going gonna guess a lot of you are getting tired of Doc Robot now. Well, after this segment and the next, we won't have to talk about Doc Robot for a bit, so let's get into talking about this fight. And get ready for the biggest surprise ever! He attacks the same way he does in Mega Man 2. He first puts up his leaf shield, which makes him immune to damage. Then he throws up 4 leaves that will then come down. Then he will throw his shield at you, and then finally jump forward. The falling leaves do 4 damage, and the leaf shield really hurts because it does 8 damage. The leaves fall a bit closer to the right side of the arena than they do in Mega Man 2, so you don't have to do all that much to avoid them. Just staying in place will work, so you only have to jump over the leaf shield. Both of Doc Robot Wood's weaknesses, Needle Cannon and Search Snake, do the same amount of damage to him, which is 4. When it comes to which of the 2 weapons I prefer, it's Needle Cannon because it is faster at hitting him. I don't think it's possible to beat him before he gets to your side of the arena if you're using the Mega Buster, so if you are, you're gonna have to move around him when he gets close enough. And you definitely want to avoid touching him since it does 8 contact damage. As well, if you go to the right side of the arena, the leaves are gonna be harder to avoid since you have to time your jump through it rather than just jumping through it since they're closer to the right side. It took me a bit to get the timing of how to jump over the leaf shield, but I did eventually get the hang of it. But anyway, considering how I've ended most of these entries, you don't have to be a psychic to tell that the next thing I'm going to say is that, in conclusion, Doc Robot Woodman is an easy boss. I really need to find some different lines for when I'm finished talking about a boss. Number 11, Doc Robot Flash. Well, here it is, everybody, the last Doc Robot fight I have to talk about, at least for a little while. And hey, this battle actually has a pretty notable difference from the original fight with Flash Man in Mega Man 2, in that the arena you fight him in is shaped quite differently. I know, we're all practically frothing at the mouth at the prospect of a Doc Robot fight having a notable difference from its original, but try not to literally explode due to excitement, at least until the video is over. I need my watch hours, okay? Anyway, how Doc Robot Flash works is that he moves back and forth across the arena and occasionally decides,
it's time to stop! Time so long!
Yeah, no, we already did that joke in the Mega Man 2 boss ranking, and Doc Robot is not worth the effort it took to edit that. But anyway, while moving back and forth across the arena, Flashman will sometimes stop time and shoot at you. Speaking of Flashman's time stop, another difference I noticed in this fight besides the arena change is that Flashman stops time a lot more now. In Mega Man 2, he only stopped time every once in a while during the fight, but in this fight it seems like he's doing it every few seconds. This, along with the different arena design, makes it harder to position yourself in a way where you won't get hit by the bullets he shoots when he stops time, even if it is true that they only do 2 damage. Flashman's other way of damaging you is if you touch him, in which case you'll take 4 contact damage. And with the way the arena is designed, I find it nearly impossible to not touch Flashman. So even though touching Flashman doesn't really hurt that much, the damage is still gonna add up real quick. A lot of you are probably wondering why I don't have Doc Robot Flash ranked higher based on what I've said about him so far. What with his attacks being so hard to dodge that even though they don't do a lot of damage, you still die very quickly? Well, here's the thing. Doc Robot Flash would definitely be much higher on the list and maybe even take the title of hardest boss in the game if his fight belonged to one of the starting 8 Robot Masters. In which case, by the rules of this ranking, I would have only been allowed to use the Mega Buster against him. However, the Doc Robots are faced after you beat all 8 Robot Masters, and as such, you'll always have access to their weakness weapons. And if you use Doc Robot Flash's weakness weapons, either the Gemini Laser or Needle Cannon on him, then he's gonna be the one keeling over in the blink of an eye. Oh, how glorious it is when the boot's on the other foot. So while Doc Robot Flash is arguably easier to beat than the bosses below him when you use his weakness weapon, the fact that I found him downright impossible to beat without it nets him a spot above the bottom of the difficulty barrel bosses in Mega Man 3. Number 10, Sparkman. Finally, I'm done talking about Doc Robot, if only for a little while. Anyway, starting out the top 10, we have Sparkman. So the first thing you'll notice about this fight is that the floor of the arena you fight Sparkman in is uneven, and Sparkman moves around this arena by jumping. When he does jump, he will do it up to 4 times, and when he's done jumping, he will attack. When Sparkman attacks, he will first shoot spark shots in all directions, and then shortly after, he will throw a big ball of electricity in the direction of Megaman. The spark shots will deal 2 damage, while getting hit by the electric ball will do 4. Same goes for touching Sparkman himself. So yeah, Sparkman's attacks don't really do a lot of damage. Though I did find it a bit difficult to dodge some of Sparkman's attacks, mainly the electric ball because it's really big. So if he throws it up close, it can be pretty hard to dodge. Also, you'll mainly want to stay on the right side of the arena because if you stay on the left side, you could run into a situation where you can't escape without taking damage. And it's this situation here. You don't really have to do anything to avoid the spark shots, but it's impossible not to get hit by the electric ball. Sparkman's too close to you for you to bait out the large ball by jumping, and you can't jump over it or slide under it either. The best thing to do here is just bite the bullet and get hit by the spark shot so you can use the invincibility frames from that to avoid the electric ball. You'll take 2 damage, but it's better than taking 4. As well, I found hitting Sparkman can be a bit difficult with how he jumps around. It's not too bad to avoid, but it does make the fight longer, and as I said, Sparkman's attacks can be a bit difficult to avoid, even if they don't do a lot of damage. Overall, I still do think that Sparkman is an easy boss, but he is definitely more difficult than the bosses we've talked about previously, even if that is a pretty low bar. Number 9, Snake Man. Can I just say that Snake Man's sprite in this game looks really dumb? I mean, he looks like a kid in a damn Halloween costume. Though I guess there isn't much to be done with the NES's limited graphics. But anyway, how this Slippery Snake works is that he moves back and forth across the arena and occasionally jumps up to fire his Search Snake. However, as you can see, the arena is not flat, but rather designed in a way where it gets lower when it goes towards the center before rising up when it actually hits the center. And because the arena is designed this way, I found it near impossible to avoid Snake Man's attacks. And because of my difficulty with dodging Snake Man's attacks, I found only one strategy that works, staying in the corner and firing at him constantly. Snake Man moves around the arena rather slowly, so the intervals between you taking damage are pretty long. And if your aim is good enough, you should be able to get something like 6 hits in before he reaches you. I originally had Snake Man quite a bit higher on this list because even with this strategy, I found myself dying quite a bit. However, while getting more footage for this fight, I found out that when Snake Man's approaching your side of the arena, if you intentionally take damage from the Search Snake while it's going up the wall, then you can avoid contact damage from Snake Man. And since the Search Snake only does 4 damage compared to the 6 damage you'd receive if you make contact with Snake Man, it leads to you taking a lot less damage over the fight, and I found that with this strategy I could kill him consistently. So while I do find Snake Man to technically be an easy boss, that only happens with one strategy. And I found that trying to beat this boss any other way will result in it being incredibly difficult, thus netting him a higher spot in this ranking, even if Snake Man is as easy or even easier than the bosses already talked about through the use of this strategy.
Snake! What happened? Snake! Snake!
Number 8, Wily Machine, number 3. Despite being the third Wily Machine, this one's quite a big step back in difficulty from the one seen in Mega Man 2, and let me just say thank the Lord because I fucking hate Wily Machine number 2! But thankfully, we're not talking about that horrific abomination of a boss fight, and instead we're talking about the quite a bit better Wily Machine number 3. Like the last 2 Wily Machines, Wily Machine number 3 has 2 phases with a health bar for each. In the first phase, your target is this, questionably placed cannon, and the best weapon to use against it is either the hard knuckle or spark shot since they both do 7 damage. It's better to use Spark Shock here since 1 is faster, and it's better to save Hard Knuckle for the second phase, which also takes 7 damage from it. In its first phase, Wily Machine number 3 attacks by shooting energy balls that spin throughout the screen and will deal 4 damage if you get hit by them. Meanwhile, in the second phase, what you have to avoid is energy bullets that come out of the 2 cannons on the sides of the Wily Machine number 3. They first go up, then come down, and will deal 4 damage if you get hit by them. Touching the pins that the Wily Machine number 3 uses to move will do 4 damage, while touching the body will have you take 8, which is quite a lot. You can also get under the Wily Machine number 3 in the second phase, but I wouldn't recommend it as it has a smash attack, which will hit you if you're under it. Meanwhile, if you're not under it when it does the smash attack, you can actually hit it. You see, in the first phase, the weakness is very easy to hit, but in the second phase, it isn't so simple. Normally, the Wily Machine number 3's weak point, which is the dome Dr. Wily is in, is too high to reach. However, when he does this smash attack, he's low enough to the ground where you can attack him. You can also use Rush Jet to get high enough to attack Wily Machine number 3 in the second phase, or by aiming the Hard Knuckle up when you're a bit far away from him. The spinning shot that he uses in the first phase isn't that hard to dodge, but the attacks he uses in the second phase are quite a bit troublesome. Especially with Wily Machine number 3 having a tendency to back you up in the corner, which doesn't leave a lot of room to avoid the shot. And while an attack doing 4 damage isn't too bad, it does get troublesome when that attack is very hard to dodge and can lead to you dying quickly. Though you can also do in Wily Machine number 3 quite quickly if you use his weakness weapons, because as I said before, Spark Shot and Hard Knuckle do 7 damage to phase 1 and 2 respectively. If Wily Machine number 3's weakness weapons weren't as effective as they were, I could see him being a bit higher on this ranking. But as it stands now, Wily Machine number 3 takes his place as the 8th hardest boss in Mega Man 3. Number 7, Doc Robot Air. We're talking about Doc Robot again. Yeah, in case you couldn't tell, Doc Robot really sucks. Or in this case, perhaps it'd be more accurate to say he blows. Yes, I know I made an Airman blows joke in the Mega Man 2 boss ranking, but if this game's gonna reuse bosses, then screw it, I'll reuse jokes! Anyway, Airman fights the same way he does in Mega Man 2. Airman will blow you to the opposite side of where he is on the arena and shoot 3 volleys of tornadoes at you chosen randomly from 5 different patterns, after which he will jump over to the other side of the arena and repeat the cycle from there. The best time to attack Airman is when he's jumping to the other side of the arena because the tornadoes he shoots will deflect your attacks. If you get hit by Airman's tornadoes, you will take 4 damage, and if you touch Airman himself, you'll take 8. You might remember from the Mega Man 2 boss ranking where I mentioned that some of Airman's attacks were unavoidable. Well, with the addition of the slide maneuver in Mega Man 3, you can now avoid this tornado pattern, though it is a bit tricky. However, this one still remains undodgeable, which is quite frankly bullshit. And the other tornado patterns can be a bit difficult to dodge. Airman's weakness weapons are the Magnet Missile and Spark Shot, which will both do 4 damage to him. If you have good enough aim, you may be able to shoot a Magnet Missile through a tornado volley and hit Airman, though since it's very difficult, I'd recommend just holding off until he stops firing his tornadoes and then unload on him when he's jumping to the other side of the screen. But anyway, despite being quite a bit trickier than the bosses I've already talked about, Airman is still a relatively easy boss that you can beat. Number 6, Hard Man. Hard Man. They named a robot master Hard Man. How did this get by anybody at Capcom? Well, as a matter of fact, the person who submitted him to the boss character contest named him Pressman. It was Capcom who renamed him to Hard Man, so they knew exactly what they were doing. But anyway, despite having Hard in his name, Hard Man is not the hardest boss in Mega Man 3. Quite far from it actually, because even though we're in single digits now, there's gonna be quite a big jump in difficulty once we get a bit higher on the ranking. But anyway, about the fight. Hardman's first attack is a rocket to punch, which he will do twice. And unless you dodge them at the end of the screen, they will boomerang back to Hardman, so be careful not to get hit. Though it's not too bad if you do get hit, as they will only do 3 damage. His other attack, however, well, just look at this.
That's a lot of damage.
Yeah, you see that right. That's 12 freaking damage. I think the attack is actually only supposed to do 6 damage, but it's bugged to hit twice, which is why it does 12. Although I may be wrong about that. If you don't get hit by his dive attack, then the earthquake it causes will paralyze you, even when Mega Man isn't touching the ground. Video game logic strikes again. Anyway, the paralysis is annoying for sure, but the time it takes for Hardman to recover from his dive attack means he can't attack you while you're paralyzed. Though, depending on where you are, it can make it a lot harder to reach the edge of the screen before Hardman uses his rocket punch. So you will have to deal with them boomeranging back, which I found pretty difficult to dodge, even if they don't really do a lot of damage. On the contrary, I found that his attack that does do a lot of damage, his dive attack, to be pretty easy to dodge, though I did find myself getting caught by it sometimes. At first, my strategy was to stay to the edge of the screen so I didn't have to deal with the boomeranging effect of the rocket punches. However, I found that due to Hardman doing his dive attack directly on top of you and the fact that it paralyzes you when he hits the ground, I found it really hard to stay to the edges of the screen while still finding time to hit him, and I often found myself getting hit anyway. So my next strategy was to instead try and stay close to Hardman to make it easier to hit him. Sometimes I do manage to dodge the hard knuckle up close even when it boomerangs, but I usually get hit. As such, the damage can add up. As well, I found that even when staying close to him, Hardman's dive attack is still easy to avoid. Though even with this strategy, which I find quite a bit more effective than the other one, I still die to Hardman sometimes. As such, Hardman gets a spot fairly high on this ranking. Number 5, Gemini Man. If you asked Paramount what the hardest boss in Mega Man 3 is, they would definitely answer Gemini Man, because he caused them to lose $111 million. Meanwhile, while my ranking doesn't rate Gemini Man as the hardest boss in Mega Man 3, he is still pretty high up on the list, as you can tell. Gemini Man starts the fight by creating a clone, and they both take turns jumping to the left side of the screen, running to the right, and then repeating. When you shoot at one of the Gemini Mans, the one on the ground will fire at you, while the other one will freeze in midair. Touching Gemini Man or his clone will deal 6 damage, while getting hit by the bullets they shoot will do 3. At first I found this to be really difficult. You know what? Cut the music. I thought it'd be funny to put here since it's Gemini Robot and, it's Gemini Man and he's a robot master. But this music kind of sucks, honestly. Play something better, me. Alright, whatever you say there, me. How's this? Much better. Thanks, me. These talking to the editor jokes really don't work as well when you work on videos alone, huh? Anyway, back to Gemini Man. At first, I found dealing with Gemini Man and his clone really difficult until I found out that if you hit one of the Gemini Man just as they hit the ground, they won't fire back at you. Armed with that knowledge, I was able to get into a pattern of shooting one of the Gemini Man just as they hit the ground, and then jumping over both the Gemini Man I just hit and the other Gemini Man, and then repeating the pattern to make it so I wouldn't have to deal with Gemini Man retaliating. So with this strategy, I'm able to get Gemini Man down to half health relatively easily, though I do still sometimes mess up and take damage. But even when that happens, it is still relatively easy to get back into the pattern. But you may have noticed I said that with this strategy, I'm able to get him to half health relatively easily. That's because Gemini Man has a second phase that activates when he's at half health, and that's when shit really hits the fan. At the start of phase 2, Gemini Man's clone gets destroyed, and the surviving Gemini Man adopts a completely different pattern. He moves back and forth across the arena, occasionally attacking with his signature Gemini laser, which bounces off the walls and will deal 6 damage if you get hit by it. As well, when you shoot at Gemini Man in phase 2, instead of retaliating with buster shots, he will jump. So a good way to damage him is to get pretty close and then shoot at him so he jumps over you. It's when Gemini Man shoots his laser that things get difficult. But Gemini laser will bounce off the walls a lot before disappearing, and I found out avoiding both the Gemini laser and Gemini Man moving back and forth across the arena to be quite hard. Even if you jump over the laser when Gemini Man fires it, if you're too close to the wall, it will bounce off it and still hit you. And with the difficulty of dodging both Gemini Man and his laser, and the fact that getting hit by Eevee will deal 6 damage to you, can lead to damage adding up real quick. If Gemini Man stayed in his first phase the entire battle, then I'd rank him just below Snake Man. This is because both Gemini Man's first phase and Snake Man's entire fight are only easy through the use of one strategy, and I've found that trying to beat them any other way is nigh impossible. However, Gemini Man would be ranked lower than Snake Man because the strategy for dealing with him wouldn't involve biting any bullet, so to speak, unlike Snake Man. However, due to the difficulty presented in Gemini Man's second phase, he finds himself with a very high spot on this ranking. Number 4, Needle Man. After I opened up Audacity to record what I was going to say about Needle Man, I spent a lot of time just staring at the window because I could not think of anything to start off this segment. But as you can see, I did eventually think of something to start off this segment, and that was how I couldn't think of anything to start off this segment. But anyway, about Needle Man himself. Needle Man starts his attack pattern a few seconds after starting to fight, or when you fire at him. He begins his attack pattern with jumping up and shooting needles at you, slowly descending while doing so. You only take 3 damage if you get hit by one of the needles, but I found that due to the way he shoots it, it can be pretty hard to dodge, and in some situations, really hard to dodge. After he's done shooting his needles, he'll either jump up again and shoot more, or jump near your position and attempt to hit you with the needle hammer. If he does hit you with the needle hammer, you'll take 6 damage, and you'll take 4 contact damage if you touch Needle Man. The needle hammer is a short-range attack, so the best way to avoid it is to just stay out of range. But if that isn't an option, then you can just jump over it. Though I have had times, for example, when I was already in the air when he used it, so I couldn't jump out of the way. So overall, the needle hammer is usually easy enough to dodge, but getting hit by it is definitely a possibility. Though Needle Man seems to have a habit of using his needle hammer at inopportune times. Like, for example, here, when I'm basically on the other side of the room as him, he decides it's the perfect opportunity to use the needle hammer, a short-range attack. You get an A for effort, Needle Man, but an F for spatial awareness. The thing I found myself getting hit by the most was Needle Man jumping to Megaman's location, and in all honesty, I cannot tell you why. There's just something about the way he jumps that I find really hard to dodge, but I can't really put it into words. He doesn't really jump at a weird angle, and while his jump is pretty quick, I don't think that's what I find so difficult about it. If you fought Needle Man before, you should know what I'm talking about, but if you haven't, then I just really can't say what it is for the life of me. So even though contact damage and Needle Man's needle cannon don't really do a lot of damage to you, they're hard to avoid, so the damage you take will rack up quite quickly. And while Needle Man's needle hammer is easier to dodge, it is still stronger and makes this fight more difficult. While both are difficult, I do find Needle Man to be a bit easier than Gemini Man's second phase, but since Needle Man's difficulty remains consistent throughout the entire fight, while Gemini Man's first phase is easy enough to deal with, Needle Man gets higher. Number 3, Doc Robot Quick. In my Mega Man 2 boss ranking, I ranked Quickman as the hardest Robot Master fight and second hardest boss fight in the entirety of Mega Man 2. And in this ranking, Quickman shows he is still very difficult, as I ranked him the hardest Doc Robot fight and overall the 4th hardest boss in Mega Man 3. First off, like the Doc Robot Flash fight, Quickman also has a different arena in this game than he did in Mega Man 2. In Mega Man 2, the arena had a raised up portion with a hole in the center, but in Mega Man 3, the arena you fight Quickman in is completely flat. However, unlike Flashman, I don't think Quickman having his original arena from 2 would make any difference in where he's ranked. That's because the reason he's so high is the other change Capcom made to this fight, the damage. You see, in Mega Man 2, both of Quickman's attacks dealt 4 damage, which wasn't really a lot, but Quickman would hit you a lot, so it added up really quickly. In Mega Man 3, they did decide to nerf the Quick Boomerang and make it only do 2 damage. However, that does not make up for the fact that for some godforsaken reason, they decided that in this game, touching Quickman should deal 8 contact damage. Yeah, you heard me right. Every time you touch Quickman in this fight, you take 8 damage. And And it's not like Quickman's easy to avoid. He's constantly moving around the arena like a baboon with a jetpack hopped up on some mixture of dope, speed, and crack cocaine, which, as you could probably tell, makes it really hard to dodge. And before you ask, no, it's not like in the Snake Man fight where you can intentionally take damage from an attack that doesn't do a lot of damage to avoid taking a lot more damage from another attack. This is because Quickman doesn't really fire his boomerangs often in comparison to the amount of time you're gonna spend taking contact damage. So what strategy does work? Honestly, the only effective way I've found to beat Doc Robot quick is arming yourself with the Search Snake and praying to whatever god you believe in. The only reason Doc Robot quick isn't the hardest boss in Mega Man 3 is because he's a Doc Robot, so you can use his weakness weapon on him. If his fight belonged to one of the Robot Masters and you could only use the Buster, then he would be number 1 for sure. But as it is now, Doc Robot Quick is still in my top 3 hardest bosses in Mega Man 3. But before we move on, I just want to thank the Lord, because this is the last Doc Robot fight I have to talk about. I am finally free of these horrible abominations that Capcom called boss fights. And I'll hopefully never have to talk about these skull-faced bastards again in my life. Number 2, Yellow Devil Mark II. Did you hate the Yellow Devil in Mega Man 1? Did you think it was too hard? Were you frustrated by the amount of times it curb stomped you? Well, don't worry, dear viewer, as Capcom themselves have heard your pleas and descended from the heavens to give you the big slap in the face that is Yellow Devil Mark II. Electric doesn't work anymore, boogaloo. And believe me, this isn't the last time we're gonna see a devil in the Mega Man series. Mark II operates similarly to how the original Yellow Devil worked in Mega Man 1, though that's not to say they are completely the same. Yellow Devil attacks by first splitting itself apart and throwing its segments at you, and then shooting at you once it reconstitutes itself on the other side of the arena. However, unlike in Mega Man 1, Yellow Devil will do a different split attack when he's attacking you from the right side of the screen, barring his first split attack. This attack consists of Yellow Devil Mark II forming into 5 segments that will then bounce to the other side of the screen, after which it will continue its normal attack pattern. Yellow Devil Mark II's split attacks will deal 4 damage if he gets hit by the segments, while the bullets he shoots from his eye will deal 2. So while it is true that Yellow Devil Mark II's attacks don't really do a lot of damage, you're still gonna get hit a lot regardless because they're really hard to avoid. For example, with Mark II's regular split attack, the segments shoot out quite quickly, so you don't really have a lot of time to react, especially if you are already focused on dodging a different segment. Another reason why this attack is hard to avoid is because it goes on for a long time, so you have to do a lot of consecutive dodges to not get hit. Also, I'm not sure if this is just me, but I found that the muscle memory I built up to jump whenever I saw the tell that Yellow Devil was going to shoot a segment actually sort of worked against me, because I sometimes found myself jumping to try and avoid a segment when I saw the tell he was about to shoot it, even though I would have avoided it if I just stayed to the ground. All of these factors combined means you'll most likely be taking multiple hits from one split attack, meaning that the damage is going to rack up quickly. As for Mark II's other split attack, the one where he bounces his segments across the arena, yeah, don't even try to dodge that normally, you're going to get hit if you do. So what I do instead is take out Rush Jet and use it to fly over the bouncing segments. However, if you're unable to use this strategy, say because you don't have any energy for Rush Jet, well, then I guess you're shit out of luck. Yellow Devil Mark II's final attack, which is shooting bullets at you from his eye, is actually pretty easy to dodge, but it can still catch you if you're not being careful. Though even if it does, it will only do 2 damage. So overall, Yellow Devil's attacks are hard to dodge, and the damage they do can rack up quite quickly. However, this is only part of the reason why Yellow Devil Mark II is so high on the list, the other being that he's only vulnerable when he reveals his eye. And he only does that after doing one of his 2 split attacks. So even though Yellow Devil Mark II takes only 6 hits to beat with his weakness to Hard Knuckle, this fight is still going to be very long, with most of that time spent trying to avoid hard to dodge attacks. And if you miss your chance to attack, then this fight just got that much longer. All in all, I'm not really sure if I love or hate Yellow Devil Mark II, as his bouncing split attack is kinda bullshit and I definitely found myself getting frustrated. But barring the bouncing split attack, I really don't think Yellow Yellow Devil Mark II is that unfair, and I felt a major sense of accomplishment when I finally beat him. All I know for sure is that Yellow Devil Mark II is incredibly difficult. Number 1, Shadow Man. Let me tell you something to put how hard Shadow Man is in perspective. I have about 77 minutes worth of footage of this fight, and out of every fight I had with Shadow Man shown in that footage, I came out on top exactly once. One successful attempt in over an hour of footage fighting this boss. As well, not all of them are full attempts, as I started resetting when I got hit early in the fight on later attempts. And if I remember correctly, I had some attempts off camera because I forgot to record. So as you can tell, Shadow Man definitely gave me a lot of trouble. At first glance, Shadow Man's attack pattern seems easy enough to deal with, but on closer inspection, you'll realize why he's so hard. Shadow Man starts his pattern by jumping 3 times, except for the first time he attacks, in which case he only jumps twice, which I'm pretty sure isn't supposed to happen. But anyway, after he's done jumping, he'll do one of 2 attacks, either throwing his Shadow Blades or sliding. When he throws his Shadow Blade, one will go straight forward while the other will go at an upwards angle. So if you're farther away, it's easy enough to just jump over the Shadow Blade, but if you're a bit closer, you'll have to worry about jumping into the one going at an upwards angle. If you do get hit by the Shadow Blade, you'll take 4 damage. When Shadow Man decides to use his slide attack, it starts the instant he touches the ground, and it is pretty quick. So like the Shadow Blade attack, being farther away can help you with dodging it. Overall, Shadow Man's attacks are pretty hard to dodge, but it's nothing worse than the bosses we've already seen on this list. So why is he the number 1 hardest? Well, for a few reasons. The biggest being that which attack Shadow Man will use after he's done jumping is decided completely at random, which means you have no way of knowing what Shadow Man is going to do after he's done jumping. And since both the Shadow Blade and slide attack have such different timings for how you dodge them, if you guess wrong, you're certainly going to get hit. And I've probably said this a million times now, but screw it, I'll say it again. While Shadow Man's attacks may not do a lot of damage, you're going to get hit a lot, so the damage is going to rack up quickly. Compound this with the fact that Shadow Man takes a long time to kill since the Mega Buster only does 1 damage to him, and with the small hitbox of the Buster Lemons and the way Shadow Man moves, I find him pretty hard to hit. I found that the best times to try and hit Shadow Man are in the slight delay before he fires his Shadow Blade, just as he starts sliding if you have good enough reaction time, and while he's jumping if you're far enough away from him. So it seems like a good strategy is to try and stay far enough away from Shadow Man, right? Well, it would be if it wasn't for one thing. Shadow Man is harder to get away from than your crazy ex-girlfriend due to his slide attack. You see, when Shadow Man uses his slide, he'll bounce up once he's behind you, whether he hits you or not. So with this attack, he can just close the distance between you and him whenever he damn well pleases. So while staying away from Shadow Man is still a good idea, it's much harder to pull off due to this attack. So take the fact that you have no idea what you're going to need to dodge when Shadow Man attacks, and mix it with the fact that Shadow Man's attacks can be troublesome to dodge even when you guess right, and the fact that this battle takes a long time, and I think you can see why I ranked Shadow Man as the hardest boss in Mega Man 3. And with that, we have reached the conclusion of the Mega Man 3 boss ranking. Overall, I'd say Mega Man 3's bosses are harder than the bosses from the other Mega Man games I've done boss rankings on, as well as the ones from my friend Pedro. Though it is still edged out by a hat in time due to the Death Wish bosses. Also, I apologize about the video's length, as I didn't intend for it to be almost an hour long. Blame Doc Robot for bloating the boss roster. And speaking of those Skullface menaces, while I did have fun playing Mega Man 3 and there were things I liked, stuff like the Doc Robots and their stages bloating the game, as well as some questionable design choices in some stages, I really could have gone without. Anyway, while I originally said that I was going to try to do a classic series boss ranking every other video, I think I'm going to change that, because I think I'm getting a bit tired of Mega Man, and I guess I already broke that rule with the Among Us video I made. Some videos of mine you should look out for in the future are a review of Paper Mario The Origami King, a Minecraft Dungeons boss ranking when all the DLCs come out, an Undermine boss ranking when the Royals update is released for Xbox, a video about Minecraft since its 12th birthday is coming up, which let me just say I predict is going to be the release date of Caves and Cliffs, and a few others. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, why not leave a like? And if you enjoyed the rest of the content on my channel, why not subscribe and turn on notifications? And before I leave, remember, Doc Robot is the worst thing to ever exist, and see you on the next video.